What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So today we have some interesting stuff to go over, mostly because we have this hiring at Google that continues to point to them having bigger plans than just streaming. Seriously, they are really building up this gaming division, it seems, and sounds like everything's going to come to a head next week when we finally figure out what they're going to be doing. We also see Switch sales actually continue to accelerate in Japan, which is odd because we don't really have anything big that's come out for the Switch recently, but the sales continue to go up, which is kind of making us wonder what's going to happen when these games do come out. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Hit the like button, it does help out. We're going to start today with Dead Space because, well, Dead Space is a series that seems like we pretty much realize we're not going to get another one for a long time. Remember the EA closed down Visceral, which was where we would expect another Dead Space to come from unless they decide to take Dead Space and send it over to a different studio, but it sounds like EA is full speed ahead on Star Wars right now because they got to get some more games out before their contract is up. Well, Glenn Schofield actually talked with Game Informer about his plans if he wanted to make another Dead Space, because he does seemingly want to make another one, but he also understands that to pitch it to EA, well, you can't just show up with a single-player game. After talking with Game Informer, he talks about how he wants to add, he'd have to add co-op to it. There'd have to be a way for there to be some kind of engagement through multiplayer, microtransactions, which, of course, in 2013, when we got Dead Space 3, well, we saw microtransactions there, so it's not like they couldn't technically add them. But I don't really expect a Dead Space to show up from EA for a long time, if ever. At this point, I say look to E3 for something like another Skate, because I think Dead Space is going to be on the back burner for a long time, maybe indefinitely. We also had a couple of different versions of NES games added to the NES Online app for the Switch. Now, of course, every month they add games. They added two this past month, with I think the big one being Star Tropics. It's pretty cool to see. But then they also add those special edition ones. They never announced them ahead of time. They just kind of throw them on there. Kirby got a special edition, and then Zelda 2 also got one. And you're seeing a little bit of gameplay, but Kirby is actually the entire game 100%ed, and then you can go back through and play the extra difficult game right away, which I guess is cool. Technically, it's just a save state, basically, but I guess if you want to just have everything 100% maxed out and go through and do things do the sound test and stuff, you could do that. Zelda 2 is basically the same thing as well. Everything's maxed out at level 8, so you can start up right away, have everything done, and just go through super powerful. So these are basically save states, but I guess for people who don't want to play through the game completely and do all this, they can just start right away with, not really God mode, but basically that, everything done for you. It's like if you would rent a game back in the day, of course. So you'd rent a Super Nintendo or an N64 game, and you look on there like a Mario 64, and they have all of the stars already. We never deleted that. If you would look at that, we would all have this unspoken rule where we would always leave that on the cartridge for the next person to check out, because it was pretty cool to see the game completely done without technically having to go through it, so you can see what you had to look forward to, or of course you get in there with all the ultra powerful weapons you can run through in other games. But yeah, there you go. They're basically doing that here, giving you just the complete save file. Also, Sekiro is coming out pretty soon. It's out next week, and people are getting really excited, myself included. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Dark Souls games, this one reminded me of Tenchu pretty much right away. In fact, I thought it was Tenchu when they first showed the teaser trailer for it. Well, looks like I wasn't too far off, as the director actually talked a bit about this in an interview, saying a lot of influence came from Tenchu. This is Miyazaki, who was actually talking to Variety about this. We even pondered upon making Sekiro Shadows Die Twice a part of the Tenchu series at first. Of course, after that, we researched and referenced many other games as well. However, I think the largest influence was from Tenchu. So yeah, I'm still really excited for Sekiro, and after reading this, I'm very excited, although, again, it's probably going to frustrate all of us because it's going to kill us over and over again, but it sounds like this is also going to be a very approachable game. You'll be able to pause it, apparently. They have a more linear storyline, so we'll be able to kind of guide you through the game a little bit better, but it will have that ultra skill-based gameplay of the Souls game. So exciting stuff. That's going to be coming out next week. I believe that's next Friday. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way. Let's get into the bigger stuff. We're going to start with Judgment. Now, Judgment, of course, is set to come out this summer in the West. June actually is the month that it's coming out, but it's already out in Japan. We've seen it on the sales charts already and talked about it and everything, and people are already playing it over there and buying it. At least up until now, Sega has actually halted sales of this game, specifically because someone who is actually involved with this game it's having a bit of an issue, and this is actually Pierre Taki, who was arrested for cocaine use. And here's the thing, it might not sound like a big enough deal outside of Japan to halt all, pretty much game sales and everything and shipping these, but it is in Japan. It's actually a very large deal when something like drug use is alleged and then admitted to, and then you're arrested for it. So what are they going to do about this? It's really hard to say because, well, Pierre actually voiced and had his likeness in the game for a character, and now he's been alleged and admitted to using and being in possession of cocaine. So here we are now with a situation where Sega does not want to be associated with this, but he's a big part of this game. Now, this happened before, actually, with Yakuza 4, and they actually took the character, did a different dub of him, I believe, and actually changed the likeness in the game. And because the English dub is already done for Judgment, since it's showing up in June, there's a chance that they will probably, believe it or not, they might actually change the likeness of his character in the game and change his voice out and everything. That's very possible that could happen, but as of now, they're even going back and deleting tweets that any mention of this game. It's that serious for Sega and in Japan of something like this. Like I said, it might seem odd to people outside of Japan, but after talking with some people who are a bit more familiar with the situation and with Japan in general, this seems like a big deal, especially if it comes down to your honor and everything in Japan. So I'm not sure what Sega's going to do here in the short term, because they were selling this up until the other day, and now they're not. I believe you can still go online and find them on eBay if you really want to get one as it stands now before there's some sort of alteration of it. I'm trying to figure out if they're going to change it in the West or if they're going to delay it, because they might want to do that before it hits store shelves everywhere outside of Japan. This might fall from June into the holiday. It's very, very possible. I hope not, because I actually looked at this game and thought it looked pretty cool. It's Yakuza mixed with Phoenix Wright. That sounded awesome. Not a big fan of the Yakuza games. I've played them, but I never got into them, and this seemed a little more interesting because it was me starting from square one, and I could kind of get into the series before there's 6 or 7 of them or whatever. So this seemed a bit more interesting and approachable, but now might be waiting till the holidays out here in the West just to get a hold of it. Next up, let's talk about the Media Create sales charts in Japan. These, of course, are the sales charts that track week to week that are all physical. By the way, there's a chance that next month, we might not have these charts anymore. We might have to just basically go with Famitsu, because it sounds like they might actually look into getting paid out real money like the MPD and stuff, and the UK sales charts do. We might still get rankings, but we might not get numbers like we do now, so keep that in mind. We might end up shifting over to Famitsu, who at least provides the numbers as well, just in a different way that they estimate and everything. Anyway, let's start with the top 10, and you're going to see Devil May Cry 5 debuting at the top, 116,202. Looking around, it seems some people are a bit disappointed with this number because it's going to continue to drop off, and that'll probably place Devil May Cry 5, which is out on the PS4, which is a fairly large install base, probably somewhere between 300 and 400,000 before it's all done. We'll have to see the drop off, though, going into next week. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is at number 2. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at 3. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. There's Kirby's Epic Yarn, Extra Epic Yarn on the 3DS at 10,607. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 7. Mario Party at 8. Minecraft on the Switch at 9. And Splatoon 2 at 10. It was actually pretty much all Nintendo stuff except for that first slot with Devil May Cry 5. So that was actually pretty impressive. Moving over to the hardware, Nintendo Switch at the top, 69,766. That's actually, if you look even last year to this year, the 2 weeks, it continues to go up. Right now, despite there not being a massive release, it seems like all the evergreen titles are continuing to push the Switch forward. The PlayStation 4 had a nice bump, most likely because of Devil May Cry 5 at 32,362, the 3DS at 5,718, and the Vita must still just have stock left over because it continues to sell at about 3,000 units or so. We should see that drop off, I assume, as stock is pretty much sold and there just aren't any Vitas left because they're not making them anymore. The Xbox One there at the bottom at 97. Now, the Switch at 69,766 is very good considering we don't have any massive releases, and we know going into the second half of this year, you're going to see some big ones, starting with, of course, Mario Maker, and then we'll get Animal Crossing, which is going to surprise some people because I think people are counting that one out. Then, of course, you got Zelda, Pokemon, Luigi's Mansion, Astral Chain, the list goes on 4 different games, and then we don't even know all the games because they're going to probably announce new ones at E3. So the second half of 2019 in these Media Create sales charts are going to get very, very interesting. Now, the Switch, of course, is almost within striking distance of the PlayStation 4 lifetime already. It's almost within 300,000 units. So we're going to see this really pick up, getting closer to the middle of this year. I don't know if the Switch will have passed it by then. It might by like E3 time, but definitely as soon as Mario Maker hits, you're going to see the Switch like completely sprint past the PlayStation 4 in Japan. And then we have to start thinking about, can it pass the 3DS numbers? Because if it passes the 3DS numbers and the 3DS is sitting like 70-ish million worldwide, the Switch might honestly have a shot at that 100 million mark, but we'll see. Let's at least see if it can pass the 3DS first. Should have the PlayStation 4 passed probably by mid-year. Next up, let's quickly touch on a patch that Fortnite put out because it affects crossplay between all of the systems. So before, you could do crossplay with everyone, basically. If someone is playing on PC, you can do that. You could jump in an Xbox One game, a PS4 game. Even if you're on the Switch, the Xbox One, or the PS4, you could end up matching up with everyone. Well, it seems that Epic Games is actually changing things around and they're making player pools. So now that Sony is playing ball with crossplay, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are kind of going to be in their own player pool, and then the Switch and mobile, so like cell phones, tablets, and everything are going to be in their own pool. And it seems the reason for that has to do mostly with frame rate and, of course, performance differences that do affect the competitive advantage or disadvantage between the systems. Now, you can still play with people on other game systems if you match up with them prior to launching matchmaking. And of course, you've opted in for crossplay. This seems to be like if you're just playing by yourself and you launch and you just want to go play like a straight up, battle royale last man standing. If you're by yourself, it'll throw you into these separate pools. But if you invite someone from like the Xbox One and you're on the Switch, for example, or vice versa, it'll basically just open you up to playing, I guess, to whoever. So it's it's an update, but it's one to keep in mind, because if you're on the Switch, you might find that you're all of a sudden maybe doing better, and that's probably because you're playing other people who are around 30 frames per second. And maybe vice versa, if you're playing on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, you might start noticing you're having a harder time, maybe. Hard to say, but the 30 frames per second difference to 60 frames, that is a pretty serious competitive issue there when it comes to advantages versus disadvantages. And then, of course, on PC, it's even worse. Mouse and keyboard will destroy controller like constantly, and the building is way faster on PC as well now. So I know Apex Legends is massive right now, but Fortnite's still pretty big, so it makes sense why they'd want to try to keep everything fair when it comes to matchmaking. But you can, of course, decide for yourself if you want to invite people in. In our last bit of news, we're heading into the week for the keynote for Google next week. We're going to be seeing that on Tuesday. I should be live streaming it, and I think we're going to see another player in the console market here. I'm not kidding. I think they're going to show up with hardware. And it seems like we're getting more and more confirmation of this with that trailer. Rumors, of course, breaking. We even did some here on the channel. Seems like we're going to have somebody else selling a console in this market. Very interesting to see that it's Google. They're going to have their streaming service, it seems, as well. And now we see a hiring that seems to solidify this more and more. See, Google's been hiring for their gaming division for quite a while. We saw them hire up executives from Sony who are going to come in and help with it. Now we're seeing them hire a person for vice president that seems to be for their gaming division. They're still kind of vague about it, probably because, well, this announcement came like a week before their keynote. I wonder why. So this is very interesting. This is actually put out a tweet as you're seeing here. And this is from Jade Raymond, which says, "I'm excited to finally be able to share that I have joined Google as VP or Vice President." And again, this comes just before Google's keynote at the Game Developers Conference. That's in San Francisco. That'll be next Tuesday, and we'll be, again, streaming that here. She's been around the block a couple times in the gaming world. She's a producer of the first 2 Assassin's Creed games. She actually opened a Ubisoft studio in Toronto. Left Ubisoft, went to Electronic Arts, actually founded EA Motive in Montreal, and here she is now as their vice president of what seems to be their gaming division. Again, we need more details on this. She's kind of vague of the position there, but Google's not hiring all of these people just to do a streaming service. That would be weird. A streaming service, we've used their streaming service, and Project Stream was all right. But doing things like launching a console, doing talks with third parties, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, and they're not hiring just like bottom of the barrel talent. A lot of the people they're bringing in are like top tier talent to do this. So This is going to be interesting. Whether you're on board with Google being a part of the gaming world when it comes to a console and like possibly their own ecosystem they're going to try to develop, it's happening, it seems. So we'll see what they can show up with. They got to bring the games. They have to have some compelling hardware if they really are going that serious with like actual powerful hardware, not just like a little stick you buy that you pop in your TV and, oh, you're streaming with a controller. If they're going to show up with something like an Xbox, they got to show up with a serious piece of hardware. So we'll see what happens, but seems like they're building more and more behind this hardware ecosystem with the people they're hiring. So next Tuesday is going to be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Google and their keynote coming up on Tuesday. What do you think about this situation? Because it seems like they're hiring people to really push along a serious gaming division and not something that's just streaming and kind of an afterthought by them that you load up in your Google Chrome browser. And what about the Switch seemingly accelerating sales in Japan without any of these big name titles that we know is coming at the end of this year? How serious do you think the Switch is going to be in Japan when they really start releasing? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.